Baldur's Gate 3 is split into 3 separate acts or regions, each containing its own mysteries, quests, enemies, friends, and powerful items. In this video, we explore the Shadow-Cursed lands in Act 2, uncovering hidden treasures, interesting locations, and valuable secrets. This video is meant for beginners, but even seasoned veterans could benefit from these hidden features. As a quick note, if the chapters are not displaying on the video's timeline, refer to the pinned comment down below. I'm your host Spooky Pops, so sit back and enjoy the journey as I reveal 7 great secrets of Baldur's Gate 3 Act 2. The first secret on our list is Araj Oblodra. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but if not, it wouldn't be the first time I'm mispronouncing a name, and I guarantee you it won't be the last. Araj is a mysterious blood trader in Moonrise Towers. She isn't necessarily hidden, but there are several different potions she is willing to exchange for favors in blood. You can also get around 1,200 easy gold from her. First, she inquires about your blood. If you're willing, she will trade a vial of your blood in exchange for a potion synthesized from your blood. Then, after trading the potion, she expresses interest in Astarion as a vampire. She wants him to suck her blood in exchange for another mystery potion. Apparently, she wants to feel the rush while Astarion sucks her blood. Whatever floats her boat. Astarion doesn't want to do it, saying her blood is tainted with corruption. If he trusts you, though, you can convince him to do so via obvious dialogue options. It will result in his disapproval, but the potion you receive is well worth it for your strength-based melee characters. The potion you obtain from this favor is a permanent increase in strength by 2 for 1 character. During my first playthrough, I discovered these 2 potions easily, as I'm sure many of y'all did. However, I failed to realize that you can obtain an additional blue potion from each companion with a tadpole. Shadowheart, Gale, Karlach, Will, Lizelle, and Astarion can exchange blood for their own potion. Additionally, using Gale first is best for an easy influx of 1,200 gold or more. There is a series of dialogue options with Gale that reveals Araj is from the infamous house Oblodra, who committed multiple crimes. In exchange for your silence and blood, she adjusts her offer to include gold along with the potion. She gives 200 gold to each character. I'll show you the way I unlocked the gold offer. Gale has a dialogue option based on his wizard class, then passing an automatic history dice check can reveal the option that says, it's not true soul blood you want, it's illithid tainted blood. She then offers the gold in addition to the potion. The potion she crafts is based on a character's race, and they are all temporary. Humans receive a buff to all skills, elves get an additional 10 meters of movement speed, dark vision, and cannot be charmed, tieflings get the ability to cast a number of spells, half-elves get a rather nice healing potion that actually saved me during combat. Again, Araj is not necessarily hidden, but you can easily miss out on gold and several potions if you don't realize she has more to offer. The next secret has to do with Shadowlands' ultimate boss, Ketheric Surrenders. There's a way you can convince him to surrender peacefully, avoiding at least 1 phase of the fight, maybe even 2 phases of Ketheric's fight. Before heading onto the rooftop to confront Ketheric, head through these doors to gain access to Ketheric's private rooms. There is a locked chest at the foot of his bed that contains a green cloak and letter. The cloak is a decent item that absorbs elemental damage, but the letter is even more intriguing. Ketheric's deceased wife wrote him an emotional letter before dying. The letter basically talks about how she doesn't want to leave him and their daughter, but she goes following in Saloon's footsteps. She expresses how death is merely a temporary separation. Armed with that knowledge, you can encourage and potentially convince Ketheric to surrender. Unfortunately, I am not sure what happens on the rooftop because Nightsong, who I saved, swoops in like a boss and ruins all the repentance and surrender talk. However, even with Nightsong alive, you can convince Ketheric to not fight in the next phase of the fight. The last phase of the fight where he transforms into a beast is unavoidable, and even though Nightsong ruined the rooftop surrender, she is absolutely clutch in this last phase. I'll quickly show you the dialogue options I took on the rooftop and at the end of the illithid hideout. This secret is an interesting part of Ketheric's story, adding depth to his character. Furthermore, it certainly makes the last phase of the fight easier with your party at full health and all spell slots available. There are several minor bosses within the Shadow Curse lands. Each of these bosses can be defeated without a fight. At the House of Healing, the deranged and psychotic doctor can be gutted by his initiate nurses. This scene is by far the most disturbing scene in the game, at least it was for me. You can act like a sick patient to get into the House of Healing. As you get closer to the doctor, he wants his initiate sisters to operate on you. But you can convince him to use his own body so the sisters can practice their handiwork. In a dramatic fashion, he then hops on the table while his sisters get to work. The greedy gold collector in the toll house is a bit more tricky than the doctor was. The collector is obsessed with gold and will take every piece of gold you have. However, the way to beat her is to give her one piece of gold and then choose the dialogue option, "I don't hand out so much gold for so little in return." I'm sure there are a few different ways to do this, but either select a class-based option, or you're a toll collector, or you were anyway. You can persuade, deceive, or intimidate her through a dice check. I chose the persuasion option, and after succeeding the roll, she explodes in a bright light. The monstrosity at the waning moon, a Thistlebald Thorm, wants you to drink with him. Through a series of skill checks, you can keep Thistlebald drinking, and after 4 or 5 drinks, he keels over and dies. It should be noted that each of these locations, the Waning Moon, House of Healing, and Toll House, have decent items scattered around their locations, including a few potions you can discover and learn at the Waning Moon. Defeating these bosses through skill checks is extremely satisfying, not to mention easy experience. The shadow curse surrounding the lands can be vanquished. This quest requires Halsin as a companion from Act 1. There's different ways to complete this quest, but it starts in the Last Light Inn. There's a catatonic man lying in a stupor in one of the beds in the inn. If you head back to the House of Healing to grab the loot from the doctor's corpse, you can then use the loot to break the man's catatonic state. He'll tell you about Thaniel and Halsin. After this introduction to the quest, there are several fights to reverse the curse. Halsin has you protect a portal from shadow fiends while he enters to bring out Thaniel. This fight is fairly difficult, so make sure to save the game before getting into this fight. Yeah, I save scum this game all day. Then you have to find Thaniel's second half at this location. You fight your way through shadow mobs and a shield surrounding the boy. After you have both the boys secured and rescued, the last part is to kill Ketheric. After you finish off Ketheric, the lands will be healed once you leave for Baldur's Gate. It can be a little confusing because there's no follow-up to the quest before you leave for Baldur's Gate, which made me a little hesitant to leave Act 2, but it works out and the shadow curse is broken. Inside Moonrise Towers, Balthazar's office contains deadly traps and a hidden room. There are several different items you can pick up around the room, but the bookshelf in the middle of the room is the point of interest. There are books that trigger a series of traps like poison and spikes, but there is also a way to get past the bookshelf into his secret room. There's one book that ostensibly does nothing. The answer to this riddle lies within this book over here. Balthazar writes something about a beating heart is better than a poisoned mind. I found a heart in the corpse on the ground. Use the heart with the ancient altar to the right of the bookshelf for the door to unlock. Perhaps you also need to push this book in to gain access to this room. Inside, you can find interesting books that shed light on Ketheric's invulnerability, a nice wizard's hat, and a potion. Note that if you happen to trigger the poison that immediately fills the room, you can bypass this trap by pulling on this lever for a safe exit. I'm sure most of y'all know this next trick, but Nightsong is an immortal being you encounter while in the Shadowlands. Deep within the Shar Temple, Nightsong is trapped. There are a few different options you have regarding her fate. Balthazar wants to take her back to the Moonrise Towers, ensuring Ketheric's continued invulnerability. You also have the option of either rescuing her from Balthazar or killing her yourself. So what to do? If you save her, she becomes an ally and helps you in your fight against Ketheric. Her help is extremely valuable too. If you do decide to save her, you'll have to beat Balthazar. In my first playthrough, I fought him in the area around Nightsong, which I wouldn't recommend doing. There's a bunch of undead skeletons that he can summon around Nightsong. The best place to fight him is back where you meet him before you tackle Shar's trials. Even though the ogre is tough to beat, Balthazar himself is a lot easier to deal with, and I had an easier time beating him upstairs than I did down below. Regardless, saving Nightsong gets you a nice blue spear, her help in the fight against Ketheric, and additional content to the story. Inside the Mind Flayer colony, There are a few notable secrets or tricks. First, there's a brain puzzle next to the necrotic library. The trick to this puzzle is to link 4 human conditions with each other. I'll show you how I did it, but basically the idea is that you have to pick one line for each of these human traits. After you complete the puzzle, a hidden room will open that reveals an item and additional information about the story. The second notable trick you can do is save Mizora and the tieflings. I don't know how they managed to trap Mizora, but she desperately needs your help. She is so desperate for your help that she offers to terminate Will's pact in exchange for her release. You might have the option of killing her while she is inside the Illithid pod, and I'm not sure what happens if you do. Each time I've gotten here, I release her in good faith. Down the ways from Mizora, you can also release the tieflings for a quest. Here is some bonus stuff for you to consider as you run around the Cursed Lands. There are so many different hidden chests that require a survival roll check for you to find and dig up. There are plenty of merchants in the area with good items for you to buy. There's one at Last Light Inn, and there's one in Moonrise Towers. There are Mind Flayer parasites you can collect from 3 or 4 people at Moonrise Towers once you make your way for the final fight with Ketheric. This scene is actually kind of funny because the narrator gives you the clue there are parasites to find, but there are so many bodies lying around that it can take a minute to find. If you are doing a good playthrough, Jaheira can join your group as a companion and become an ally for Act 3. And those are my 7 best secrets of Act 2 in the Shadow Cursed Lands. Baldur's Gate 3 has been lots of fun for me to explore and complete a few playthroughs. This video could be my last video until Starfield, so I hope you've enjoyed the BG3 content I've made. If you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing to support my channel. Thanks, that's it for me. See you in space. Spooky Pops out.